Welcome back to the Step Brothers. I'm Wesley Clark here with Andrew Hyde. And Ohio State got a huge win against Purdue. Michigan lost one of their key players to an ACL injury, but seals the number one seed in the Big Ten tournament. We'll go through all of that here on the Step Brothers. Go follow us on Twitter, X, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. Yeah, no, I got mixed up with that. But we'll go into the combine for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I'm going to do a on the clock who I would draft in order. I got the list of them. I haven't prepared it at all. I'm just going to go down the list, and then we'll get into, obviously, see the names right there, Alvaro Reese, Sonny Styles, and Lorenzo Styles, especially those two brothers, and the campaign that they have had these last couple of days in Indianapolis, Indiana, at Lucas Oil Stadium. But Andrew, what's going on?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, just brutal injury news less than 24 hours after I was riding a high after the biggest game in the Big Ten season at Illinois. That was a huge win. First time Michigan had beat them in 10 tries. But yeah, tough news there. Hadn't been paying much attention to the combine. There haven't been like the high end guys that Michigan has had the last 2 years, from this year. So I just haven't been paying as much attention. So maybe you'll have to educate me a little bit there.
Yeah. This combine, I think, is huge for a lot of players. I was asked today if I thought the combine was either dumb or stupid, and I said neither. I mean, you're talking about someone like Sonny Styles. I go into him first. He was, after the season, he was projected the 21 spot in the first round. So late in the first round. And what he's done so far in the combine has now moved him up, and he's projected to be the number 7 pick to the Washington Commanders. And this is old news for Ohio State fans and what he's done and what he did at Ohio State. He's just showing it in front of a bunch of pro scouts, and all of a sudden they're writing his name high. But this is a guy that was recruited as a safety. Caleb Downs came into the program. He had 1 year at the linebacker position, decided to come back after the national championship, and had another phenomenal year. We wore that block O for a reason for Ohio State, which is a big honor. Cody Steinman wore it before him, and Xavier Johnson before Cody. And he had a great 4 years at Ohio State. And it's good to see that the combine is doing its service as it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. I want to know your opinion before I actually get into Sonny. What do you think about players kind of skipping out on the combine? Do you think it's necessary, or do you think it's, depending on the player?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the player. I mean, if you're already pretty much a surefire top 5 pick and there's really no room for you to continue to go upwards, I don't think I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, Fernando Mendoza, he will be the number 1 pick, but he threw at the combine. Yeah. He also, it was in Indianapolis, and there was a ton of Indiana fans, so just doing that for funds. But I do agree, it's a case by case. But for Sonny Styles, it is worked out for him and his brother. Yeah. But 6'5", 244 is what he weighed in as. He had a 4.46 40-yard dash for a linebacker. That is incredible, especially at 6'5". Yeah, he was a huge safety. You're talking about Caleb Downs, who's 6 foot. I'm the same height as him, and Sonny is 6'5" and 244. He's large guy. He's running a 4.5.
That's a freight train.
Mm-hmm. The second fastest. No, it was and then his vertical was 43.5 inch vertical. It was the second best vertical since 1999 by a linebacker. So he just has exploded on the scene in front of all these scouts and has made himself money. And the combine is just perfect for a player like this. If he did this at the pro day at Ohio State, I don't think that the attention would have been as much focused on him. Mm-hmm. But he's going to be able to do this at the pro day and just show 32 teams why he should be drafted. And you'll make a mistake if you don't draft him before the team before him. So it's just a great for him. I'm glad to see him, shine. Definitely gonna miss him. Probably my favorite Buckeye in this draft because he was there for all 4 years. he got moved positions. I don't know how difficult it is to go from the safety to the linebacker position. It's got to be difficult at some degree. And he was able to do it. Now he's turned himself into a first-round pick. He was projected a third-round pick last year, but decided to come back. Obviously, NIL helps these guys. We see with Dante Moore, especially. You get another chance to come back, win a national championship. You're going to take it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's no longer so much of a rush to get to the pros, especially in the NFL, who I think does it right compared to like the NBA, where your stock doesn't like tank just because you're 1 year older. Whereas in the NBA, like they want the youngest, most, I guess, impressionable or workable guys sometimes, just the highest potential. But I think that's a great thing about college football is guys come back to do something special at their school, like you were saying. So
and his older brother, and Sonny Styles is 21 years old. Lorenzo is 23 years old, and he made history. He started his college career at Notre Dame. Both of them are from Ohio, the state of Ohio. But he wanted to come back to Ohio and play with his brother, and it worked out with him. Won a national championship. He was originally a wide receiver, and then transitioned over as a corner, which is actually not uncommon, especially with guys who struggle with catching passes. But 9th fastest 40 in combine history. He ran a 4.27. It's the fastest an Ohio State player has ever run at the combine. So he's just also another player where case by case, this is also working out for him. You're talking about a guy who really wasn't on my mind. Day 3, third, fourth round, use him as utility player, maybe a halfback position, see what you can do with him. And now you're seeing, for sure, special teams player for one of the top teams in the NFL. And, I was at that UCLA game. I know you remember when he ran that 101-yard kickoff return to the house.
Yeah. No, I think it's a shout out to Ohio State's development staff, especially their strength and conditioning staff. Like, huge selling point. If you choose Ohio State and you're there for an extended period of time, like, you will be physically ready for the NFL, for a showing like this at the combine where it's about that athletic prowess. Obviously, a lot of the guys who do well at the combine that doesn't always. It's not a direct transfer to the field, but when you can see that these guys have all played at a high level and been that good on the field, and then you have the physical traits to match, their stock just skyrockets. So I think we knew that would happen with a guy like Arvell Reese. I think we talked about it because he's just an absolute freak. But yeah, pleasant surprise from some of the other guys as well.
Yeah, Arvell Reese, he only had one full season at the linebacker position, starting Cody Simon, the senior who wore that block O. He started that national championship year, and Arvell got in every once in a while a defensive switch, a regular, break for a defender. And one season he shines bright and is projected to go number 2 to the Jets. So I'll go to him. I'm not going to talk as much about Arvell. He'll be number 2. It'll be Fernando Mendoza and Arvell Reese, kind of at least the latest mock drafts have shown him. He had a 4.4. He ran exactly what Sonny Styles did. I think the reason why Sonny was kind of blew up the scene was, you're late day 1, and all of a sudden you're talking about a guy who's now top 7. He's been overshadowed, and that's what happens with a lot of these wide receivers at Ohio State. I know it's crazy to say that because all of them have become so good, but Emeka Egbuka, he was a number 2 for the longest time at Ohio State, and including last year because Jeremiah Smith, an 18-year-old, took over the scene. Yeah, and now he had a great fresh rookie year with the Buccaneers. And this is another guy with Sonny Styles. It's the same case, but on the defensive side. Lorenzo Styles, I forgot to mention, he ran the fastest 40 of defensive player this year, but the second fastest in the combine. So he's definitely got himself paid The record previously was Curtis Samuel and Paris Campbell and Curtis Samuel. And Curtis Samuel. They ran a 4.3 when the year that they were in the combine, and Lorenzo Styles beat him. Barbara Reese, he looked exactly like everyone else was expecting him to be. Great 40 in the skill positions, the drills that they do. He did a great job with his cuts. He he told the media he sees himself as kind of an edge and also can play linebacker. So kind of a Swiss Army knife on the defensive side. And that's going to work perfect for any team in the NFL.
Yeah, a lot of teams want that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of highlights for the combine. And hoping that Caleb Downs, he didn't participate. He'll be at the Ohio State Pro Day. A lot of these guys I'm going to go over. But we'll do the mock draft for Ohio State players. Anyone, I don't know if you watched any of the combine, but any of the Michigan players you saw, and how do you think they did?
Yeah, I saw Marlon Klein tested pretty well athletically, which was expected. He's a really good athlete. Donovan McCulley didn't actually do. He did pretty well in like some of the skill groups, but didn't run a 40, nothing like that, which I thought was interesting because he's a guy that if you have a good time there, you could really benefit from it. So maybe just didn't feel good about that. Derek Moore didn't run a 40. I think he had like a hamstring strain a couple weeks ago. You never know how true those things are. The only one who I really think was active at the combine was Jimmy Rolder, the linebacker, who most Michigan fans think he should be back this year because he's not. I wouldn't say he's like an NFL athlete. Like he's kind of an old school kind of linebacker type that you've seen in the Big Ten. Yeah. But he actually put up some decent numbers on a lot of the tests, like some of the the linebacker shuttle and the L drill, things like that. He actually did pretty well. Not as good as like a guy like Jacob Rodriguez. I know he had a day for himself. But yeah, not too much noise. Like I said, there was not the top end NFL talent at Michigan this year, at least not any of the draft eligible guys. So
especially compared to when Hutchinson was there, Mason Graham.
No. Yeah, nothing like that.
Yeah. Ohio State had 11 players this year. They had 14 last year. I mean, that's another example. It's not a rebuild for schools like Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. It's just you reloading. I mean, perfect example. You're talking about Arvo Reese, who maybe started 2 games.
Yeah.
Before his senior year, before his, I guess, third year of eligibility, and now he's a first rounder. These guys are in and out, and that's the thing. That's what sucks about college. At times, you get this emotional connection to these players, and then they're gone. It's not like NFL. You're signed. You're there for 7 years, 8 years. But so 11 players: C.J. Donaldson, Carnell Tate. We're Max Clare, Caden McDonald, Caden Curry, Sonny Styles, Arvo Reese, David Egman-Nelson, Lorenzo Styles, Caleb Downs, and Will Kazmarek, the tight end. I'm gonna go in order. It's in order. Arvo Reese, he'll be my number one. He's kind of an easy. I think he'll end up at the Jets. I think I will go Sonny Styles second. I don't know if you thought I was gonna go Caleb Downs there.
I would have, yeah. I would have expected that.
Yeah, so I'm going to go. Yeah, I'll go Sonny Styles, and then I'll go Caleb Downs. Third, I wish I had a pencil across these names out. Fourth, I'll go K. McDonald. And those are the 4 players that are expected
in the first round, right?
First round, yeah. So then the thing, I guess, is Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs. What worries me with Caleb Downs is his size. I think it's a little bit more of a risk. I can't see we've talked about this before. It's a lot easier to transition from college to the NFL on the defensive side than it is on the offense. But also when you're talking about the size of a player, and we now see the speed of Sonny Styles, I just don't see how he doesn't transition to the NFL, like everyone else. So I'll go Sonny Styles, Downs.
Okay.
I'm going to go with my 5th pick. I will do Caden Curry. He had his pretty good senior year. I think he's honestly a pretty good edge. Jack Sawyer, he kind of reminds me of him. Someone who wasn't really explosive, but with his agility and his athleticism, Jack Sawyer had a great year with the Steelers, and I think Caden Curry can do the same thing. I'm not expecting Caden Curry to be an All-Pro, but expect to make a difference on the NFL scene. Next, I'm going to go Max Clare. I think that tight ends, they have a high value. They're kind of dime a dozen. Colin Loveland had a good year, and Brock Bowers from Georgia. His rookie year he was phenomenal. I think Max Clare, although he struggled at Ohio State, I think he'll do a good job. And I'm also I think Will Kazmarek did a better job at Ohio State, but I think with Max Clare's, if I'm talking about the shelf life and also the max ability to play in the NFL, I think Max Clare would be better than Will Kazmarek. So that'd be number 5. And then Igmanosin, then Lorenzo Styles Jr., and last, I don't think I missed anyone. Oh, Will Kazmarek. And then last one, I don't think anyone at Ohio State is going to say no to this, is CJ Donaldson. I just don't see how he gets drafted, to be honest with you. I mean, he is slow. He misses
kind of
block assignments. He's a subpar catcher out of the backfield. There's just no way to me that he's not an undrafted free agent after the NFL draft. There's just no way. I mean, I am just shocked that he got invited to the NFL Combine.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's it. Oh, so I forgot Carnell Tate. So actually, Carnell Tate would have been. I didn't say Carnell Tate. So I would have done. Kane McDonald is actually projected later in the day, later in the first round. Carnell Tate is that fourth first rounder. So I would have done Arvell, Sonny, Downs, Carnell, and then Caden McDonald. So those are the 5 first rounders that are expected. But nonetheless, that in that order, seeing Donaldson at the end. Yeah, but it was a good year for Ohio State in terms of producing players going to the NFL draft. I mean, especially on the defensive side. Carnell Tate, just another wide receiver who will be in the first round, following Olave, Garrett Wilson, so on and so forth. They've just produced every single year.
Yeah.
So, I think that's we can. Do you want to move on to Michigan basketball? I know the injury suffer. That's huge for Michigan. Missing the rest of the year. But you win the Big Ten championship. What is that like, finally reclaiming that title?
Yeah. So starting with the positive, Michigan gets a huge win at number 10 Illinois, or they were number 10 this week. We'll see what they're at when the poll comes out tomorrow as we're recording this. But, yeah, just a huge win. Michigan was dealt a pretty tough Big Ten schedule, getting Michigan State. Obviously, we play them twice, but then Purdue on the road and Illinois on the road. I mean, that's no easy feat. You got Nebraska at home, which was good, but in terms of the schedule, that's very difficult. And you have Duke, right in the middle of that. Michigan currently has the number 5 rated strength of schedule in the country, and they're 27-2. So that's an impressive feat for sure. Interesting, some crazy stats right here. Michigan is the first team ever to win by double digits at Michigan State, at Purdue, and at Illinois in the same season. So ever in history. And that includes some of like the Bobby Knight Indiana teams who went undefeated multiple years in a row. That includes some really good teams. So interesting. I just, Big Ten. Chad Baker-Mazara at USC is apparently not with the team anymore. So
yes,
I just came up on my phone.
26-year-old.
Yeah.
Just
off topic Big Ten news.
I already had when I saw that, I'm like, he's 20. Would he get a job at the local enterprise dealership?
Anyway, moving on. That's funny. But yeah, so the crazier stat here. This just kind of shows you how dominant Michigan has been this year. If you count every Big Ten win that Michigan hasn't won by double digits, so they've won but not by double digits, so a single-digit win, and you counted that as a loss, Michigan would still be in first place in the Big Ten by 2 games.
That's pretty good. That's
So
pretty.
they've been dominant.
What are those? Do you know those wins, or it was just a stat?
Penn State, funny enough, on the road, that was a 2-point win. There's one more. Let me think about it. I'll have to think about it. Get back to you on that. But yeah, so they've been historically dominant going into the game at Illinois. I don't know if you caught any of it, watched any of it.
Was that today?
So Friday night.
No, I did not.
Okay. Judging by the fact you didn't know which day it was, I assumed you. That's okay. Yeah, so Illinois is the number 1 rated offense in the country on Ken Palm. Not just the number 1 rated offense this year, but the number 1 rated offense in history. So they play at a super in history of the Ken Palm era, which is like, I can't remember what year that started. Early 2000s, late 1900s, maybe something like that. But they play at a super slow pace, which is obviously not what Michigan wants to do. They share the ball. They have elite 3-point shooting. And Michigan was able to pretty much take them out of that. Early on, it was clear that Illinois wanted to kind of slow the tempo. Kylan Boswell was getting some late shot clock, drives and some kick out threes. But Michigan eventually just clamped down, and some of the pressure they were getting on the perimeter, they had some effective pressure in their full court press. Didn't turn to a lot of turnovers, but just kind of did enough to take them out of their actions and turned Illinois into mainly a dribble drive team, which besides Boswell and Keaton Wagler, like that's not what they want to do. They want to move the ball and share the ball, get open looks, and Michigan just locked down the number 1 rated offense. I mean, held them to, they were around 60 points before garbage time when Michigan was up by 20 or so. They ended up with 70, hit a couple late threes, late buckets, things like that.
From my understanding, and this is comparing to the last couple of years of the Big Ten, it's no shot at Michigan either. I think that the talent across the board for the Big Ten basketball has suffered this year.
Really?
Compared to, yeah. I mean, that's what I've seen and read. It doesn't, people don't describe it the gauntlet that it has been in years past, where, you're talking about mid-level teams like you're saying Indiana should be a lot better than they are this year. Ohio State should be better. Michigan State, fair, to me, is also a team that is I'm definitely going to be losing middle of March Madness. Michigan's a lot better than they have been probably the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, definitely the last years of Juwan Howard era.
Right. And I guess when Jordan was at 2018, probably the best team since 2018.
2021 was really good too.
Purdue, to me, watching them today, we'll get into the Ohio State game. I just don't. They're not as good when they had Zach Edey. That's the name correctly. I just across the board, to me, and there's probably a reason why Michigan is really dominating, because they're just across either the top 4 team in the country, but the gauntlet isn't as tough, which at times you might get upset because, 2 days ago you just had to play a true number 10, a true number 6. So this is, honestly, I think that this is good for Michigan going into the tournament, because we've seen in years past because you play enough good teams and you play Duke, probably the best defense that we saw in NCAA. It was either going to be Michigan or Duke, and Duke ended up coming up on top.
Yeah.
So if you give them that, the number 1 there, you're talking about, you still played Illinois, still played Purdue, still played Michigan State. I don't think Michigan is going to be as tired as they have been in years past, and that's including other Big Ten teams, but the other Big Ten teams aren't as good as Michigan this year. So I think this is actually going to work in Michigan's favor. It's that it's not as much of a gauntlet, but still it's a tough schedule as a whole.
Yeah, you think about the Big Ten in previous years, and it's kind of always been known as a conference that's just it's cannibals. It's a conference full of cannibals. Everybody beats each other. Teams, are winning. The teams that win the Big Ten have like 6 losses. And I thought that was going to be kind of what this season was, just because of the amount of good teams that are at the top, with Nebraska and Illinois, Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, obviously. But Michigan has just kind of separated themselves in a tier above. And I'll agree with you that the Big Ten is not as talented top to bottom. like some of those middle of the pack teams. Like Indiana is not as good. There's been some good Iowa teams.
Yes.
Trying to think, UCLA is not as good as they have been before joining the Big Ten. USC is not all that good. So I agree with you there, but I do think the top tier of the Big Ten is actually better than it has been in years past, especially when you factor in a team like Nebraska, who hasn't been that good, and they're one of the top teams in the league. I think the top echelon of the Big Ten is in a better place to compete nationally this year, which we've seen, like, talk about the Big Ten drought. That hasn't been the case in recent years. Like, they've struggled mightily in the tournament. Michigan has actually been one of the better Big Ten teams in March Madness in recent years, but I think the top of the conference is better suited to take that step.
Would you think, in terms of a schedule, and if you're talking about the balance and you're rating different conferences, how does a conference achieve the title of dominating the NCAA in whatever respective league you're talking, college football, basketball? Would you rather say like the football this year for the Big Ten was unbelievable in the middle of the pack? I mean, you're talking about Nebraska, you're talking about Minnesota. They were, when you played Ohio. Obviously, I experienced Minnesota. You're against the Ohio State team that they were great this year. But you're talking about Minnesota that was competing. You're talking about Northwestern, who gave Oregon a run for their money. You're talking about Nebraska, who played up a good game against Michigan. I think that, and they go into their bowl games, and it's nothing. They win,
dominate,
like it's nothing, because they go 6-6, but those four of their losses are against Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, and USC.
Yeah.
So, would you say that? Would you rather have the Big Ten being top heavy, or kind of more of a parity across the league like we saw this year in football?
I would rather see it be more top heavy if that means the top teams are going to compete with the other top teams from other conferences. Like, some people have the metric to which conference is the best that year. They'll say is like how many teams get in the tournament. Like, maybe if you want to talk top to bottom, but like, the SEC is probably going to get the most teams in the tournament this year, and they are in no way the best. They're probably third in terms of Power 4 conferences, Power 5 conferences, I guess, in basketball.
So you think that for the Big Ten to get the recognition, it would be top heavy?
You got to have like actual national championship.
And that is probably why the SEC in football was getting that claim for years, because Alabama and Georgia were winning. And LSU had a championship in there as well. But now, the Big Ten has won 3 in a row. And I think what has put the crown on the Big Ten was not only are they winning the championship, but now they're just dominating the SEC in the bowl games. So what the Big Ten has to do in basketball is, because it has been the Achilles heel when they have gone into March Madness, and they're just losing. And they're not just losing to each other. They're losing to the ACC. I mean, the ACC is good, but SEC, Big East. I mean, we saw Michigan State lose to Middle Tennessee State, Ohio State losing to Oral Roberts as a number 2 seed. It just has never really worked out for the Big Ten as a whole in March Madness, like it has now with football.
Yeah, and a lot of that has also been, I think, due to style of Big Ten play and roster construction. Like, the best teams in the Big Ten, and I don't want to say recent, but like think about like the 2010s. Big Ten teams weren't known for like lighting it up from outside. Think about like a guy like EJ Liddell at Ohio State, like undersized big, was really good. Like, there was a certain way of roster construction and playing that was not what the rest of the nation was doing. And so I just don't think they matched up very well. Now you see more teams kind of play. Nebraska plays super 5 out. A team like Wisconsin plays super 5 out. Michigan plays pretty positionless. I mean, they have bigs that post up. But it's a lot more. I think they're trying to even the playing field with that. So
what that reminds me of is the Big Ten, and compared to the Big 12 and the SEC in terms of football, you're talking about high-powered offense. The Big Ten is doing 11 personnel, and then they're really focused. They're defense-focused, especially Iowa, and even Ohio State has been for years under Ryan Day. now, 6 years?
Mm-hmm.
Indiana had a great defense this year. I think that it's because it's a little more flashy. You're not scoring points. You're just preventing points compared to SC teams that would rather drop. I mean, we saw the Ole Miss game. They're dropping 38. It's a 38-35 game. And then Ohio State and Indiana, 13-10. But those are the best. Those are the top two teams in the country. So I think I do agree. I think that the Big Ten has now shifted from that defensive style to trying to light up from three, because that's what they've been beat in the tournament.
Yeah, and here's what I'll say about that, and then I want to get back into college basketball a little bit more specifically, but that is like the Big Ten in basketball adapting to like kind of that more positionless shooting mindset is not adapting to the rest of the country as much as it is like that's what they're doing at the NBA level, and so that kind of trickles down. But in the same way in football, the Big Ten teams aren't trying to do it like the SEC teams. They're taking like that NFL. They have NFL influence more so, I would say, and that's how NFL teams are playing. Really defensive oriented, and that's where a lot of that philosophy comes from. Because even a few years ago, like 2019, Ohio State was as sling the ball around as anybody. Even like 2021, Ohio State was not. They could not play defense at all.
No, they cannot.
So I think that in football, I think it trends more from like the NFL side of things than it does the rest of the country, if that makes sense. That's my take on it.
So you're saying that the Big Ten has just stayed focused on they're more focused on what the NFL has done, and they've influenced by their type of play, and then the Big Ten in basketball, they don't really care what the NBA is doing. We're going to keep our style.
Trying to think about how I want to phrase this. Yes, like I think that's true for football. In basketball, like that does trickle down from the NBA, but all the other conferences were already doing it. So it happens to be the same. When in football, those things are opposite. Like what like the Big 12 style of play is, it's different from the NFL. But like other conferences in college basketball have had that style for a while. Like they've been more run and gun type of like high possession games at the NBA. That's the NBA style. And you've seen like Michigan is entirely like that. Like they play as much like an NBA team as anyone.
And that's why when you look at winning percentage, like the top teams in the tournament with 3-point percentage, Colgate a couple years ago was the top 3-point shooting team in the country. They go on the NCAA tournament and actually succeed. So that makes it dangerous. Exactly. Or Roberts was the same way. Middle Tennessee State, like you shoot the three,
St. Peter's,
you're gonna win the game, and you're only playing one game. It's tough to just the game itself between basketball and football is just also a big difference. Just the physicality is how you win. Obviously, you see Duke being very physical, more so than their 3-point play, but football is a whole different game. But yeah, I do agree.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the win at Illinois. We've been talking about high possession type of offensive minded teams, but at the end of the day, being physical, winning the rebounding battle, that matters everywhere, especially in the Big Ten. I mean, there's still an element of physicality there. It's not that identity didn't go anywhere. Illinois is third in the nation currently in offensive rebound percentage. So the amount of shots that they shoot, the percentage that they ends up in an offensive rebound, they're third in the nation. And Michigan generally held them under their average. They ended up with 12 offensive rebounds, I think, but I think 4 of those were in like the last couple minutes. Overall, did a great job. The big men had a great day. Yaxel, Adai Mara, Merez Johnson all had their day. I thought Elliot Cadeau had probably one of his best games in terms of coming off the pick and roll and making reads. I mean, there were some great passes, lobs, pocket passes he made to some of the bigs, set them up for dunks, just easy buckets. And yeah, Michigan not only is playing great defense, but their offense had a rhythm that looked, in tune with how it has when they're at their best this year. So
I think,
okay, go ahead.
Well, I have no doubt in my mind that Michigan will make a run in the the tournament, March Madness. It's just more when you get matched up against a team like Duke again, where they're so defensively focused. How are you gonna do that again? Like, they were really limited against Duke, and they had no signs of momentum. And the times where they stopped Duke's momentum, because Duke really didn't go on too many runs. I was at that game. I was waiting for one of these teams to pull away. It didn't happen. Duke was just good enough on defense to stop them. So I'm curious to see how Michigan is going to respond to that. Obviously, in that Wisconsin game, can you speak on that Wisconsin game briefly?
Wisconsin shot the lights out. Their big hit multiple threes, who had hit like 2 up to that point. Michigan was just kind of careless on offense with turnovers, losing by 3. And then it gets revealed later on that Wisconsin is a lot better than they had been playing, or at least they had been kind of coming into form. Like when they shoot the ball really well, they're actually really good.
So I guess the question is if can Michigan get into a swing of momentum, because they're unstoppable. But if you have a team that is limiting them, how is the pressure? Are they good under pressure? I don't know if they know that yet.
Are they good under pressure?
Well, to my understanding, if you're down late, if you're in a game late, I wonder how they'll do going basket to basket. Because at least the game I've seen, I guess they pulled up against Penn State, but you're talking about a terrible Penn State team.
Yeah, so you're talking about like when they don't dominate.
I'm talking about Elite Eight, Final Four. Yeah. How will they do under pressure when it's a back and forth?
That's a good point. No, you're completely right. I mean, they overcome a 16-point deficit against Northwestern a couple weeks ago in the second half. That's obviously not the same level. But yeah, after that
Duke game,
it'll be
hard to do that when you're playing Houston and Arizona.
Exactly. Yeah. And after that Duke game, I think that's a very fair question to ask. Like, obviously the Michigan State game, Michigan had a huge lead at halftime, ends up being a really close game at the end, and then they pull it out. I think Michigan is super unfazed by pressure. I'm not worried about that with them. I'm worried more that they've shown that their ceiling is higher than anyone. Their ceiling is higher than Duke's. Their ceiling is higher than Arizona's. But their floor, like, they're super volatile. They've shown that they can just go in lulls. Like they are top 10, and Evan Miyakawa Miyakawa, I think that's how you say it, is a college basketball analytics guy. Has something called the kill shot metric, which is just a 10-0 run or better. Michigan is top 10 in 10-0 runs. Like, they have stretches where they just dominate, and that's how you see the point differential that you see. But they have lulls too, like where they just go cold on offense. You watch them in person go completely ice cold on offense against Duke, and
that's the thing. Like, you're talking about the entire season where their floor is low, and we've seen that in games. So they have to try to avoid that. At least be somewhat consistent. If they're consistent every single time that they go out, then you'll see them in the national championship.
Yep.
But if you're seeing the floor, I mean, it'll be tough. I mean, you saw the floor with Ohio State's offense against Miami, against Indiana, and those are 2 games that they lost.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, for me, like, Michigan, in every game this year except the Duke game, they've played their best when the pressure is on the most, right? The Michigan State game, the Purdue game, the Illinois game, the Gonzaga game, the Auburn game, even back when people thought Auburn was good. Like, they struggle against teams like a few days ago, Minnesota, was up on Michigan in the second half. Minnesota was a terrible team. I actually think they're a well-coached team, but they have no depth because of injuries, whatever. They didn't look that great against Oregon or Washington, and obviously we're down a ton to Northwestern. Like, they've had to pull out some scrappy wins. Penn State against worse teams. My concern for Michigan is not whether or not they can, like, go to an Elite Eight game against a 3 seed and win. It's more like, what happens if you kind of get in a funk against a 9 seed, and now you're fighting to keep your season alive. Like, their floor, like we talked about, like, it can be scary sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'll move into this, though. Obviously, we're talking about Michigan and their chance to win a national championship. Became a little bit more difficult now with some news that came out yesterday. Michigan reserve guard LJ Cason out for season with a torn ACL. Now, LJ Cason has not had a huge role the entire year, but he was really starting to step into a bigger role. The last 5 games leading up to the Illinois game where he gets hurt in the first half, he was averaging 13 points a game. He was shooting over 40% from 3, around a 77% effective field goal percentage, I think, in Big Ten play, which is elite. Probably Michigan's best, I would say, in terms of just go get a bucket type of guys, like isolation scorers. I think he's probably the best that they had. And he was a real spark plug off the bench. So obviously now the question is, for a team that is so, obviously the front court at Michigan is the focus. That's what makes them go. And the concern for critics of Michigan was, well, okay, guard play wins in March. That's something we know. Michigan's not going to rely on their guards, but there's always a time where you're going to have possessions like that where someone just has to go make a play. And LJ Cason was one of the better guys on the team at that. And now that responsibility is going to fall in the hands of a guy like true freshman Trey McKinney, Elliot Cadeau, who has been amazing at times this year, but has also had some really bad games this year where he's turning the ball over. And, Namari Burnett has had a game where he had 32 points. He's also had 0 points and been kind of a no-show. Roddy Gale is one of the most up and down players I've ever watched, the Ohio State transfer. Sometimes I don't know what he's doing on offense. Sometimes he can't catch the ball, but last year we saw him against Texas A&M single-handedly will Michigan to the Sweet 16. So I would say for the guards, the issue is consistency, and now that margin becomes a lot thinner, which is scary. I guess, what do you think about that?
Well, what you notice in college basketball, and I wonder if you can get to March Madness, and I've talked about maybe, you get to March, we're finally in March, in fact, and that you're not in a gauntlet. Like, we may not be in a gauntlet of the Big Ten like it was 2 years ago. So maybe this is going to help. You see in college basketball, and I'll relate to Ohio State players. Bruce Thornton, he plays 39 to 40 minutes a game. I mean, he's the only player on the team, but they might have to do that with Burnett, right? Is that
probably more likely Cadeau would
sure. But McKinney,
LJ Cason's backup point guard, and we don't really have another backup.
I remember I remember McKinney out there. In fact, I also watched LJ Cason against Duke. They were out there for a while, and they didn't really do much. So I think the backup guard, someone's gonna have to step up, because I can't think of a time where teams who make the national championship, they go to the Final Four, they don't have games where they really just blow everyone out. Like, you're going to have a game where a guard is going to have to hit a 3 with a minute left. That might be in the Elite 8. You might blow by the first 3 games. But at some point, someone like LJ Cason or your guard is going to have to play 39 minutes and just dominate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and no one has, with the depth that Michigan has, no one has played super significant minutes. No one is playing Bruce Thornton minutes, which helps them because they're going to be fresh for the tournament. But yeah, I mean, you got a good point there. The one thing I see Michigan fans saying, this is like the Isaiah Livers injury in 2021, where Michigan was a national title contender. That is not at all the case. I mean, Isaiah Livers was one of the best players on that team outside of Franz Wagner and maybe, freshman year Hunter Dickinson when he was there. But Isaiah Livers he is very similar to Yaxel Lendeborg in terms of his game. Like, he meant to that team what Yaxel means to this team. So it's not at all in the same stratosphere. And fortunately, Michigan has the luxury of having a ton of depth on the roster. But yeah, just not something you want to deal with, going into the month of March. Just brutal. But this is kind of my thought, and I'll let you say what you want to say after. If your season, you winning the national championship, was going to ride on your backup point guard being in or being out, you were never really a contender.
Yeah.
You have to be. Great teams deal with adversity. You're not the only team with an injury. You're fortunate. Texas Tech just lost their best player, who's an All-American, and they beat Iowa State, a top 4 team, on the road by double digits. It's not time for excuses. It's time to just figure out how you go moving forward. And
that's a great thing with college sports. And I mean, I was told this before I got onto of Virginia Tech baseball field was you're going to be treated like a piece of meat. You're just going to be replaced. In fact, I was replaced because I was cutting almost immediately. The last thing I'll say before you can wrap up the Michigan segment is the national championship or bust?
In my eyes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. And you think that across the table, if you lost in the Final Four, do you even care?
No, that'd be. I mean, I would love. Like, I personally just think Michigan is a tier above teams. Every team that you would see before the Final Four. You're not running into Duke before the Final Four. You're not running into Arizona before the Final Four. Maybe you could get Florida in your region, and they're probably as good as a 1 seed right now. But to see in my lifetime after watching that 2021 team lose to 11 seed UCLA in the Elite Eight, Jordan Poole's team losing in 2018 to Villanova, this has got to be. I got to see it, or I'm not going to be happy with the Final Four run.
All right.
So yeah. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Yeah, plenty more to talk about with Michigan, as obviously Selection Sunday, just 2 weeks away. We'll start to preview kind of, where their matchups. They're projected to be pretty much locked into the number 1 seed in the Midwest right now. They're locked into the number 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament, obviously. Last 2 games in the regular season upcoming at Iowa and then Michigan State. So yeah, we'll see where they go with LJ Cason. I'm interested to see what that rotation looks like at the guard spot. Maybe even have Yaxel initiate some offense. Yeah, gonna be interesting. But I'll let you take the show. Ohio State hoops. Not a lot of good news this year, or really in previous years, but some.
Yeah, we now know that Jake Diebler owns Purdue, as you see right there. They beat them 82-74. Third time Diebler has beaten Purdue. He hasn't lost against Purdue. Purdue has been ranked 11.
He hasn't lost against Purdue?
Yeah, he's 0-3. They've been 11.
What?
He's been ranked 11, 8th, and 2nd when Diebler's played them. I mean, that's
crazy.
Yeah, so undefeated against Purdue. Obviously, he's on the hot seat. I don't think they'll – it's his second year being a head coach, and things do take a while. If at some point next year, if you're seeing kind of the same Ohio State team, then see ya. So
they're not firing him if they make the tournament.
You don't think next year? Anyway, we'll get into that.
No, this year, I mean.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's gonna get fired either way. It doesn't matter. I don't think he'll get fired. Okay. But we know in college basketball, especially in the regular season, you make free throws and you out-rebound, you're winning the game. And that's exactly what Ohio State did against Purdue. You're 25 points from the free throw line, and they out-rebound them as well. They had 36 rebounds. They scored 19 points off of rebounds. So you're talking about 25 plus 19. So that's a huge chunk of points that is essentially just is given to you. Points are given to you for every team, but to have that significant amount, I mean, that's what leads you to wins. I mean, this is huge. This is
just wanting it more, straight up.
That is 18th win for Ohio State. I think they still have to get to that 20th mark. They have played Penn State and Indiana to end the regular season. And a one win in the Big Ten tournament would definitely put a cherry on top, and they'll be in the tournament. Probably won't even have to deal with the first 4 if they get to the 21 mark. But good job. Bruce Thornton, 39 minutes. He got a minute off. Sometimes I check and he's got 40 minutes in the whole game. Hey man, I'll glory to him. I mean, this is, to be honest with you, Ohio State ain't winning nothing. Okay. But Bruce Thornton, he does. I mean, I don't want to. He's 30 points away from being the all-time Ohio State leader. It would be embarrassing.
He'll get it.
He'll get that. It'll be embarrassing if the all-time leading scorer for Ohio State never
makes March Madness. Yeah, that's crazy.
So I'm hoping that happens for him. He deserves it. I mean, he seriously goes out there and dominates every single week. They lost to Iowa a couple of days ago. A good Iowa team for sure, but as my computer's acting up, but he struggled against Iowa and the team sucked. So
they go as he goes.
Yeah. He had 20 points. John Mobley, the sophomore, has had on and off season, but he plays well. at times. I'm hoping he comes back next year because
he's really good.
He's good. And then you have a 5-star recruit coming in. So things could be different next year. But for this year specifically, in just terms of Bruce Thornton, I want him to step on the court with the March Madness logo on there. Like, he absolutely deserves it. Because he could start for a lot of these top 25 teams.
He would, yeah.
So it's good. It's good to see them win. He definitely deserves it. But good win against number 8 Purdue in Columbus. Not a lot going on in Columbus this year. With the football team not ending the way they wanted to, and the basketball season I sent you that image of their win-loss. I mean, they were one of the most inconsistent teams in college basketball.
Well, consistent, just consistently bad.
Consistently mid.
Yeah, consistently average.
They hadn't lost 2 games in like 3 months. They finally did. Man, who they lose to?
Yeah, they just beat every team they should beat. Could not beat.
And then every once in a while they got to beat Purdue and they beat Wisconsin, and then now they just have to beat. They got to beat Penn State. They're terrible, and then Indiana, who also has 18 wins, but they get to that 20 mark. Then Bruce Thornton, first round exit, but hey, man, you got there. And it's disappointing. It's crazy the difference between Ohio State football and basketball right now. I mean, they used to go band for band, like when Aaron Kraft was at the on the team. But this year, D-Lo, I mean, they were okay, but he just dominated himself.
PJ Washington,
yes, him too. It's too bad. It's too bad where Ohio State basketball has gone. But
if I could jump in, because I'm looking at the Big Ten standings right now, Ohio State is currently in 9th. Well, tied for 8th. Did they play Iowa?
Yeah, they just lost them.
They lost to Iowa.
So
Iowa would have the tiebreaker. So currently in 9th, which would give you a single bye in the tournament, the Big Ten tournament, not a double bye. Top 4 gets triple bye. Next 4 get double byes.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be looking to move into that double bye category if they win 2 games. Iowa, who they're on the same level as, or have the same amount of conference losses as, plays Michigan. You would think Michigan can handle business there, hopefully. So Ohio State, I mean, either way, if Ohio State is the 8 or the 9, they'll be in position to play Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. So
all Ohio State's got to do is win 1 game in the Big Ten tournament, and they're in. So
you can't lose to Penn State either.
If they can't, if you lose to Penn State, I mean, if you beat Penn State and lose to Indiana, then you definitely have to win a game in the Big Ten. If they do that, then I think they'll squeak them in.
You get Indiana at home. I think you can manage that.
Yeah. So they're lucky with the end of the schedule with Penn State and playing Indiana at home. But other than that, I mean, they actually have put themselves in a good position after beating Purdue again. They
have. And a lot of the other bubble teams have lost too. Like Auburn lost to Ole Miss, which is a bad loss.
Virginia Tech has also lost themselves.
Yeah. A lot of the other bubble teams have kind of, like, I think Joe Lunardi tweeted about it, or I saw it somewhere. Like, at this point, a lot of teams don't play themselves into the tournament. They play themselves out. So to be a team that plays herself in, like, I think Ohio State is currently like a first 4 or first 4 out team, like last 4 in, first 4 out team.
Yep.
So this will be a huge win for them in terms of resume. But yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see them win. All for Bruce Thornton. I mean, he is solely the purpose why I'm happy for the team. Everyone else can get,
Yeah. What did Matt Painter say about him?
I don't know. He's
gold, something like that. He said he's gold. Guys like that are rare, something like that.
Yeah, John Mobley after the game, he said, "We're going to go on a run. I promise you." I was like, "Okay."
I'm not sure about that. Maybe a run.
Maybe a run against Penn State, Indiana.
Maybe a run through Dayton.
Dayton would be nice. Beating up another Ohio team.
No, I mean like in the first 4 in Dayton.
Yeah, no, I know what you meant.
Oh, but not playing Dayton.
Oh.
Because the first 4 is in Dayton.
In Dayton.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, that'd be nice. Nice first 4 win. I barely even count the first 4 as the tournament. To be honest,
I mean, if you're in there, you're not.
You can't even select them on a bracket. Maybe that's why. It's like Providence / Xavier playing a 16 seed. Anyway, well, that's it. I mean, so good win for Ohio State. Michigan, bad loss with the ACL, but hey, I mean, it's college sports. You gotta have someone step up if you want to win.
You have adversity. I wrote this down, but I didn't say it during the segment. You remember the Zach Center injury against Ohio State in 2023?
Yeah.
Zach Center, all Big Ten player, on the Browns now, was amazing for Michigan. Probably their best offensive lineman. Goes down, literally breaks his leg in half, and that just the stadium started cheering, "Let's go, Zach!" I remember Joel Klatt talking about it. But the team rallied around that, and the offensive line stepped up in the college football playoff after that. Guys slid into different spots. I'm hoping this can be a situation where Michigan responds in the same kind of way, and they rally for LJ, and they can still bring it all home. I mean, this team, I've raved about the depth of this team all year. Now it's getting tested, so we'll see how they respond.
Yeah, excited for March has finally arrived, so we're waiting. Big Ten tournament, March Madness. Andrew does a bunch of posts on TikTok, so go follow us on that. Obviously, X, so that's Twitter, and then our personal accounts on Instagram as well. Let us know in the comments what do you think about Ohio State's win against Purdue. Where do you think Michigan will land? Obviously, they'll be number 1 seed as of now, unless something crazy happens. And then where do you think they'll finish in March Madness? Looking good for Michigan, and obviously combine for Ohio State. A lot of good guys played well there. So Pro Day coming up here pretty soon in about a week. So we'll see what goes on with Caleb Downs. But go follow us, and thank you for watching.